Καλωσορίζουμε τον Burak Pekoğlu από το γραφείο BINAA Architects. Hello, Burak. It's nice to have you here with us today.
Hello.
And we're very excited to hear from you.
Thank you very much. This is Burak Pekoğlu, joining from Istanbul, Turkey, with the design studio of BINAA, Building Innovation Arts Architecture. I would like to start my speech with the idea of the space material form in relationship to sound. And I've been always wondering how space is being formed in relation to the idea of these other things with our feelings that we always aspire. The idea of the formation of the space attracts certain things that we don't sense. We don't see all times, but also we sense. And the idea, like when I was involved in a concert hall in Los Angeles, the inspiration was this form and material in relationship to sound was inspiring for me, and also many other inspirations looking back to the city of Istanbul. So the idea of looking at the other works of the art and architecture from the early times, like Michelangelo's sketch of the ceiling, shaping how the formation might relate to the idea of the sound of the bells and the other sounds that happens in space. And looking at Hagia Sophia in Istanbul, or the Bulgarian church in Fener in Istanbul, this dome shape and the material is also affecting the reverberation of the sound and the spirit of the space. So this has been always inspiring for me as an architect, the relationship of these feelings and the senses that happens via the material and form. And this is a Selimiye mosque in Edirne by architect Sinan, and how the shape and forms also related to the sound happens in the space as well. And looking at here, we see a space in the Egyptian bazaar in Istanbul, and we like very noisy, but at the same time, different kind of sound happens when you walk through the passage. So there's this kind of the sense of a space happens through the shapes and the materials that's surrounded by the design intent, and sometimes it happens in layers. And maybe looking at the Metropolitan Library in New York, one of my visits, very inspiring space. It's a quiet space, at the same time has a spirit with the magnitude of the space and light and the material. So the form also relates to the sound as well here. And jumping back to the Gary's work was also inspiring, who I was also acquainted during my studies at Harvard with his partners. So I was pretty much inspired starting my own practice working with these architects as a master and also his colleague at young ages. And then starting at my practice in Istanbul, I was questioning how we shape space with these things that we don't see, but we always kind of try to sense. So I tried to focus on several projects in our practice, looking at the idea of the sound with the relationship of the space, form, and material. So I want to talk about maybe 6 distinct projects in the discourse of our practice. So first one will be office and conference hall. Is a headquarters building in Sakarya, Istanbul, which we were also awarded with using metal and other materials in different means. So this is basically a headquarter building in Sakarya, which is representing many different industrialists, but also the idea of the use of the space is separated between the offices and the auditorium, which is a small one, but at the same time effective for the surroundings office users. So in this case, we had 170 seats on the left, and the building is split in two. So in the way we organized the program was because this foyer and the conference hall was not always used. So, but with certain events, So we want to separate this space with boxes, and at the same time clad the building with a single skin that will bring the building into one holistic character. So here, the use of the sound and space is formed with the program in terms of the cladding circulating throughout the facade and also making its character. So we want to use some diagonal shapes that will represent the industrialists in the area in terms of the manufacturing and the technology that can represent shaping the metal. So we were looking at the idea of the testing of the materials, but of course this is the exterior environment. But somehow we want to also inspire with this formation within the interior as well. So basically, at the exterior we use metal, but as we go towards the interior, the material changes and it starts affecting the acoustical environment and the way people are inhabiting the space in terms of work or using the auditorium as a different event. So on the left side you see kind of like a black box where the cladding is solid, so there's no sunlight penetration. But on the right side we have a double skin facade which filters the light in. So as you enter inside, you see through this facade, double skin facade, and the form of this facade also communicating with the interior cladding. So we use this triangulation as a kind of a way to deal with the acoustics of these interior spaces, where we could maybe have these common rooms where the businessmen and the industrials can discuss, and their voices are distributed within these lounges, so they don't maybe have maybe different groups of people having conversation in the room can be comfortable in the space. So in this case, this is one of these management rooms. So we want to use wood and perforated wood to triangulate the sound within the room. So at the same time, we could have these reverberations within the space more downsized with the ceiling armature. So at the same time, this ceiling design integrated lighting and mechanical as well at the same time. So this is the meeting room within the interior, where we use this warm material and also wood as the means of the warming this space, and the acoustical panels that will help the meeting rooms in a more feasible in terms of program. As we walk through the building, we see these offices, which are very generous spaces with lighting and also with the use of the users. And as you see, this dual relationship, on the right side the offices, on the left side the auditorium, is as a kind of this translucent facade welcoming the users inside. And in the interiors, we want to use some buffles that will help the distractions themselves. And this is the making process, as you see. And for the offices which are adjacent to the foyer, we use double glazing for the sound insulation. So in terms of the separation from these maybe crowded spaces, that can be that the workers in the offices are less distracted. So this is the transition from the office foyer to the auditorium foyer, and as you see, as we walk through the auditorium foyer, there's a relationship in terms of geometry, and the forms are kind of like shaping with calmly into the wood, and there's this kind of transition from metal, stone to wood, and then the top ceiling is letting these kind of emissive surfaces to control these crowded maybe meetings that can happen within the space. So as we walk into this auditorium, there's this exploded axon showing the components of the acoustical shell that we designed here, with also relating to the geometry of the facade, which helped us to have kind of like a dialogue between the character of the building, at the same time helping the sound distributed. So this is the design intent, the rendering that we fit within the box, and this is the making process. So we had to make sure the coordinates are similar within our digital model to control the acoustical model that will help for the speaker to have his sound reach to the audience in a more direct way. So also we integrated mechanical and lighting within this acoustical shell, helping the viewer in a more interesting spatial experience. So again, there's this kind of inspiration from this geometry and the material shaping this auditorium for us in relation to the rest of the building's design. Again, this is the mosque that we designed across from this auditorium headquarters, so which is a neighbor to this building. And in this mosque also we look at the idea of the space in relation to the sound, and this is basically a box with a dome in between, in the middle. So we want to make this kind of concentrated geometric dome that would kind of create different vibrations within the space. So it was more like experimental, at the same time making a religious space into a more different experience within a calm space. So these are the materials that we use simply: plaster, wood, and also stone. So in terms of the material quality, the sound also distributed differently in terms of the behavior distributing these materials. So jumping again to a different project, this was a cultural center that we designed as an interior fit out. Again, this was 1,000 seats. So we had an approach to look at the existing space and design the form in relation to the sound simulations. So this was the seating formation in relation to stage. Again, we were looking at more kind of with our acoustical engineer, the relationship of the form and the sound being distributed within the stage. So again, this was a kind of a continuum of these earlier studies that we had. And this is the focal point towards the stage, looking from the balcony. Again, with these shells integrating all the mechanical and lighting, and this is the built version of that. This is another project being diverse. This is a library project that we designed and which is commissioned with the Cultural Ministry of Turkey here. So here in this design, we were looking at a building again, where we had these floors and these seats in between. The glazed, double glazed capsules are quiet spaces, and around that is like a boomerang, where these kind of in between spaces happening more like a free zones. So in a way, this is more like a kind of a relaxed mode, and this is more like focus mode in the library. So where people can focus within these glazed spaces, but around you can be more like speaking and freely researching your work in the library. As also a mother comes inside at the lobby, can leave the children inside this capsule and take a book and a drip of coffee. So this also allows kind of access at the ground floor. And the shell is also following the function of this program around the building. Another library project in Mardin, Turkey, which is southeast Turkey, which the construction has just started. This is also exciting project of ours. So here we were kind of like carving the ground and having different like theater at the outside, and also a flying reading room and different auditorium at the ground at the base, 25 meters below, and a kind of open reading archives. So this is also exciting moment for us, where this building will be constructed, and having different experiences led throughout the building with different sound installations and sound experiences within the space. This is a final project I want to show you, which is a current project that we are working on. in Istanbul, which is a 2,000 seats, where we designing a multi-purpose cultural congress center, where there will be different modes of events. This is the foyer clad with a metal and with gallery spaces. So we are separating with acoustical ceilings and also careful calculations of the acoustical modelings for different events. And as we walk throughout around this shell, this is the entrance to the conference hall with this metal clad is opened up and letting people inside to the auditorium, and where these panels will be rotating for different events of acoustical performances with different reverberation moments for the needs. So this is the space that we have this wood clad with these functional rotating acoustical things, and this is the geometrical study of this, where we have different surfaces, different geometries, giving us different ways of mechanical integration and also rotating acoustical panels, where these will be rotating and depending on different modes of the events. So this way we can manipulate the ways of the sound vibes needed for different modes of events. And also it's a very dynamic systems, stage and opera channels, and also Tom Meister here, as you see. So we want to encapsulate all these kind of different needs within this one large auditorium. As you see here, these are the different potential events that can take place within this interesting space. This is, for example, a scenario for the conference where all the panels are made into fully perforated, rotated, and also for the mechanical, for electrical speakers helping and with the camera. So as you see, this is like acoustic classical music concert with the shell closed and semi opened up perforations for the need of the performance. And as you see here, for example, you see a theatrical musical again with the semi opened up panels. And for example, here you see all reflective surfaces for opera or ballet with the opera needs of the space. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Burak. It is very interesting to see how you incorporate new technology in all these new cultural landmarks with a reference to the timeless architecture. We have our first question for you. Kostas, would you like to proceed with the question?
Hold on, let me check it. Burak, the question is, how do you measure the acoustical results of various interior ensembles in order to choose the most convenient?
How do we can I have this again, please?
Yeah, it's how you measure the acoustical results, as a matter of fact,
okay.
For various configurations, various assemblies that you may have to choose from in order to decide which one is the optimum solution for your case, for the use of the building that you are designing.
I whistle in the space and listen to sounds. No, of course, we have like a very good consultant in each project. So we work with consultants because as we are an architect, I'm not eligible to model and look at, but we have this kind of a ongoing back and forth, kind of like a tennis game. We create these 3D models, and we have our acoustical consultants check out these models, and they model and they get back to us. So there's this kind of ongoing dialogue with the consultants that we are working with in each different project. And sometimes also, in a way, it's intuitive for me when we decide, we make some sort of a formations. So it's kind of like taking risk at the same time as well, but at the same time, it's this kind of an engineered way of looking at the process. But there's this kind of a dialogue of inspiration for me always when I travel, look at these new spaces. So I kind of put in the memory, and when we design, we test these forms and materials. And also our acoustical consultant and engineers are telling us, just let's do this a little bit perforated, or if you move it like this way, it's better. So there's kind of, I would say, we use the modelings for that reason. But I'm not an expert on that. So as an architect, I'm more intuitive in the approach of design with our engineers here.
Yeah, I like the whistle answer more. the low tech answer.
Yes.
But I understand that you simulate, you go back and forth in cooperation with your acoustic designer to decide which of the solutions that you will finally suggest is the best one, is the optimum for your project.
Yes, much so.
Actually, we have another question, if you would like to answer that one as well, from Yorgos Ganidis. What oralization program do you use for acoustic calculations? I'm not quite sure if this is a program that your office is using, or the acoustic consultant that you are cooperating with is.
I need to connect to the consultant. I don't know the name of the program,
Right.
but we are designing, Rhino. We are using Rhino as a surface modeling. So Rhino helps us to create these geometrical shapes, which many architects in the world are using. Also, it's an industrial design-based program, but this is just for us to create the digital model. And by this digital model, they are remodeling in their own software to give us these modeling results. So by that means we can discuss how to regulate these surfaces, and there's kind of this back and forth, of course, kind of process within our designs, I would say. Again, this is something also at the end of the day, there's a risk that you always take with this kind of design process, because in all around the world, there's this different technologies used and different intuitions used. But the sound is something as a measure, not 100% measured in the software. There's some sort of a, when you experience in the reality is a different result, maybe sometimes, according to each individual user, I would say so. So I would say this is something like there's always these unseen moments in these experimental design processes, which is really interesting to me as an architect, because you try to see and feel how that result might happen according to the performer, according to the audience, because when the design is out of you, when a performance happens, there's a different experience. These performers are gonna critique the space, and there's always a risk that we make a mistake as well.
Thank you for your answer. Thank you, Burak, so much. I don't know, we don't have any other questions. We could probably move on.
If we have some more, we'll get back to you later to provide some answers. Thank you very much for being with us and sharing your time with us.
Wonderful projects. Thank you so much.